What's up, YouTube, and welcome to this video. So, this video is about JavaScript, and JavaScript is the brain of our website. So, all of the logics goes inside JavaScript, and we have internal JavaScript versus external JavaScript. So, we can define JavaScript with a script tag like this. And the first thing that I would want to show you is alert, and we have console.log. So if I start the HTML, you can see that this is to show a user a message. And we have our website which we built during the experimentation while learning HTML and CSS. If I right click, inspect, and go to the console tab, I will see the hello world for dev. So this is what console.log does. So we have a lot more things in JavaScript, but before doing any of that, let's create a new file and call it script.js. And we will do all of our scripting in the new script file. And remember that you can name the style and script.js anything that you like. So instead of doing this, let's copy them and paste them inside JS so we would know that our JS is working. So we connect the external JavaScript like this src and the name of the file. So if I refresh, I still see the alert message. This means that my external JavaScript is working. So we can remove these. Let's look at how can we comment inside a JavaScript file. So we can do it in two ways. The first is by giving the two forward slashes and then writing. The second way to comment is a multi-line comment. So we can also say that. So sometimes the plain JavaScript is also referred to as vanilla JavaScript. So now in the index.html, let's comment all of this. Control K C to comment all of this. And let's make a new HTML structure for JS and Alt Shift F. Now in the JavaScript tag, we will first see what are variables. So we used to declare a variable using var keyword, and then let's say we are declaring a number 1 2 3. We can also declare a string abc, or we can declare a boolean which is true or false. So we have these basic data types, and what they mean is this is kind of a block where you can store a number. This is the same block, but you can also store a string inside it. And the third data type is Boolean. If you are declaring a variable, then you are declaring a space in the memory of the browser where you can store something. So that something could be a number, a string, or a Boolean. We also have some unusual data type if we have any error or our data is not found. Then we also have, let's just call this variable error. We also have undefined or null. So we also have these two data types. Now let us take the user input. So taking user input is really easy in HTML. You just let's create a label, enter a number, and we will take input which could be of type number. The name is not needed. The ID would be input 1. Copy these two. Then let's create select an operator. So let's create a select tag, and this will have options, and this is called operator. So let's refresh. So we have all of these, but we need the br tag. Now what we can do is we need these references inside JavaScript, because JavaScript does not know what this input or this select statement is called. So what we can do is we can so we are now using the let keyword, and there is a reason to use the var or the let keyword, and I'll tell you why in a moment. For now, let input 1 equals to document dot get element by id. This is the function that we uses the most, and now we have to declare the id. Now we can get the second input reference, and we can get the reference of the operator. So we need to be careful when defining IDs. This should be exactly the same. So the O in this operator cannot be this O. It must be the smaller O. After this, we can create something which is called a function. So mathematics, let's create an h4 tag with ID result. And let's also get the reference of result h4. So now for this mathematics function to trigger, we also need a button calculate, and with an ID of CALC. We should also define the reference here. So the calculate button. If operator dot value is equals to plus, then the result dot inner text will become input 1 dot value plus input 2 dot value, and let's just stick with this for now. Now for this mathematic function to trigger on this calculate button, we need to give this mathematics to the button like this, on click attribute, and let's give the mathematics function name. We also didn't define the link to the external script file. So after doing this, refresh and give the two numbers, calculate. So it's giving me 515. Why is that? Because in the script, when I'm taking input dot value, it takes the value like a text. To tell the browser that this input dot value is actually a number, we define number function and takes the input inside it. All of this will make sense in a little while. So let's go with 5 and 15, and we can see our result. So what is actually happening inside all of this? First, we took the references of HTML element, so the JavaScript knows the HTML element and what are the names of all of them. So we define specific function for specific logics. So that's why I define mathematics to process all of my operators. The first operator is plus. So we are taking the operator's values. So whatever is inside this operator, then we are comparing that value if the value is equals to plus. Basically, this is the comparison operator. This equals to. If we are using a single equals to, then we are assigning the value. So here we are assigning the references. Here we are assigning this number. But if we are using that double equals to, this means that we are checking that these two values are equal. So if the operator is plus, then we are preparing the results inside the H4. Now we are taking input value number 1 and input value number 2. So whatever is inside these inputs, and we are using the plus operator which will add the values of both of these. We are also assigning the number function to both of these value to tell the browser that add both of these value as numbers, because adding them as string would be like 1 plus 1 is equals to 2, because both of these are number. But if these are string, then 1 plus 2, 1 plus 1 is actually equals to 1 1. So this is the difference between number addition and string addition. So we have defined our function. Then here in this instance, we are using the onClick attribute to assign the mathematics to this button. This is what we call an event. So event is a function which triggers on a specific action. So we can complete this function using else if. So you would be thinking that what is this else if or what is this else? This else if actually means that if this condition does not get fulfilled, then we move on to the second condition. If this get fulfilled, then the function would be over. So no code would be executed. If this is false, so the operator is not plus, then we will move to the second condition. If this is false, then the third. There is no condition here because this is the default scenario that the operator does not matches to any of these. Then this else statement would work. And so let's save and refresh. 20 and 10. If I add, this makes 30, minus this makes 10, multiply would make them 200, and divide would make them 2. The multiply operator didn't work because I didn't put the right operator there. The multiply operator, and it's giving me the right results. So this is how function works. If, else if, and else work. So now before proceeding, let's see the difference between let and var. So let's create a new function, test. I may declare if true. So this is an if statement that will always work. Var variable value is hello, and let's try to print the value outside of the if block. To test this function, I can inspect, go to console, and directly write the function's name. So test, I have to refresh. You can see that the hello is printed. This is a mistake because this is a journal programming rule that nothing should go outside of the scope. So if a variable is defined within the if scope, it should not work outside of the if. Similarly, if something is defined within the function scope, then it should remain inside the function. It should not work outside of the function. If I define this variable using a let, refresh, run the function again, you can see that it's saying variable is not defined. And this error is actually correct because the variable is defined within the if scope. So when the if scope is finished, the variable also get destroyed. So it cannot be accessed outside of the if statement. That's why we always use let instead of the var keyword. So now moving on forward, we have other operators like this. So we have seen that we have plus, minus, multiplication and division. We also have another operator. Let's just use the test for the operators. We have arithmetic operators. So the basically the modulus does is n1 equals to 10, let n2 equals to 5. If I say console.log n1 modulus n2, then you would see the result. Refresh, test, you are saying 0 because the modulus gives you the remainder of the division. If you divide 10 by 5, then it is divided completely. So you would get 0. But if you divide 10 by 6, then it's not a whole division. So you would get a remainder. If I refresh, test, you can see that the remainder is 4. So we can, by using this operator, we can check that if a number is even or not. Let's comment all of these and define a new variable number which could be equals to, let's say, 10. And we can say that if number modulus 2 is equals to 0, then print number is even. Else say that number is odd. So let's try these out. Refresh, test. It's saying that the number is even. Let's go for 121. Now, how did I define this if and else without their blocks? This is because this was a one-liner task. So I can define one-liner task for a if statement without the curly bracket or the block. So I could define it in one line or in multiple lines like these. So the modulus operator can do stuff like this. So these were our arithmetic operator with these plus, minus, multiply and divide. Then we have the assignment operators. And you have already seen the first assignment operator, which is this equals to. So the second assignment operator is plus equals to. Let's comment these out. We have n1, now n2 equals to, let's say, 20. Now I want to add this number 2 inside this number 1. What I can do is I can assign the number 1 n1 plus n2, and let's check the console.log for the value of n1. Now it's saying the value is 30. And we can actually do it inside the console too. So we can do it directly inside the console. This will gives us the same result. So this is a way that anyone can have the addition of both of the number. But we have another syntax, which is I can say n1 plus equals to n2. This is a much cleaner approach and it does the same thing. If I copy this, it gives the same result. So this is what we call a plus equals to operator. We also have minus equals to multiply, divide and modulus equals to operator which does the same thing. We also have comparison operators. Let's comment this out. Let's just work directly inside the console. 30 is greater than 40. This is false. 30 is less than 40. This is true. So this is giving me the result of false and this is giving me the result of true. So we have comparison operator which we can put inside this if statement. This input. So this is called input 1. We can say if input 1 dot value convert this into a number is greater than or equals to 100, then say big number, else say small number. So basically the console is made for a developer to test their output or to print out errors whenever they need. So we can test this comparison operator here. Test is giving me small number because nothing is here. So it's equals to 0. If I write 121, test this out again. Is saying big number while 12 is a small number. So this is how comparison operator works. We also have greater than equals, less than equals to, greater than equals to, and of course equals to. We also have a triple equals to in JavaScript which is not there in any programming language but JavaScript has it. Let me copy this and comment this out. Let's remove this and let's give it a number 100 equals to and string 100. Basically both of these value are different. Console.log matches. Refresh, test. So it's saying matches. Why? Because this equals to operator compare the value and not their type. So if I put the triple equals to, then refresh, nothing happened. So it didn't match. Why? Because the triple equals to also matches the type of both of the values or both of the variables. So these were comparison operators. We also have a shortcut for the if and else statement. So it goes by the name ternary operator. Let's give a value again string 1. Let's go with hello and we have a boolean operator. Let's call it bool and in this boolean I will define a condition. So the boolean can hold true or false. So it can also evaluate conditions. So I can define 1 equals to 1. This will result in true. Similarly, I can define a condition that this str is equals to hello. So this is a condition. it's better if we call this condition. If I log this out, condition, then you would see that it's giving me true. So I can hold conditions inside a variable. I can do one more thing. I can use this condition to print out a specific value. If the condition is true, then print condition true, else print condition false. So you can see that it's telling me the condition is true. Let's change this to something else. Now it's saying that the condition is false. So this is a shortcut of writing an simple if and else. And we can also assign this ternary operator inside a result. Then let's say alert out that result. So it's saying that the condition is false. So this is how ternary operator works. First we have a condition, then if this condition is true, then this will get executed. If the condition is false, then this is the default value that will be executed and assigned to this left side variable. We also have logical operators. These operators combine our condition. Let's say we again have the two numbers. By the way, Control KU uncomment the code and Alt Shift F format the file. So we have these two numbers. What we can do is we can set up a range. If n1 is greater than 100 and the n1 is less than 1000, then we will say that correct range. Else, so now we can test this out. It's saying wrong range. And if we type 100 here, it's still saying that this range is wrong because we have typed the greater operator. If we type greater equals to and less equals to, then this range would include 100 and 1000 as well. So now it's saying the correct range. So by using this end logical operator, I can combine two logics. Do this. Let's go with a string this time. Let's call it hello. And the condition would be if n1 equals to hello, or so this is the or operator, equals to hi. Then in both of these condition we will say that, otherwise we will say that wrong input. So it's saying greetings. If I write hi, then it's also saying greetings. Why? Because in this or operator, any one of the condition could be true or both of them could be true. If this condition is anything like this, then then it will say wrong output. So these were logical operators. So you have a lot of operators in JavaScript, but for now these one are good enough. We also have array. So an array is like this: 1 1 2 2 30 50. So an array is variable, but it can store multiple values. So this variable can store only one value, but this array can store multiple values. And The definition of array is it can store multiple values, but it should be of same type. But the JavaScript does not go with general definition in programming. It allows different type of values to go inside the array. So if I wanted to print this array, the first value I would say array square bracket we write the index. The index is the position which we want to explore. So we want to explore the first position inside this array. We also have array dot length which gives us the total length of the array. If we want to print this entire array, then we have loops. So a loop is like this. We have for loop, and this loop has let I equals to 0, I is less than 3, I plus plus. Console.log value of I. What this will do is it's giving me 0, 1 and 2. So the loop basically runs a code again and again. But with different iteration, the value of the variable changes. So first time it was 0, second time 1 and then 2. So with each iteration, the value of I changes. And this is the condition which tells the loop that if this condition is true, then run. Otherwise, complete the loop and get outside of the loop. So when I was less than 3, this loop keeps running. And when the I reaches 3, then this loop stops. So each time the loop ends, this I plus plus decides that the value of I would be incremented by 1. So this is how we can print array, and we need to give the position with I. When we do this, now it's printing the values inside the array. But we want to print all of the values inside an array. We can do this. Array dot length. So when the value of I is less than array dot length, which is 6, print the array. If I do this, then you are seeing that all of the indexes are printed. So the last index would be 5 because the length is 6 and the indexes are start with 0. We can also do this. Write index equals to then the value of I, so index 0, then write the array value. So if I run this, we can now clearly see that at position 0 this element, at position 4 this element, and the other elements. So this is how array and loop works. We also have objects. So var object equals to name Hassan, city Karachi, and other stuff. So we can do objects. To print an object, we can say simply object name. So it's giving me Hassan object dot city gives us Karachi. Now I would like to tell you that we don't define functions like these anymore. We have a different implementation that we do, which is we define functions like a variable. We would define mathematics like let mathematics equals to, so this is a variable and it will store a function which would have an implementation like this. function brackets, the arrow, and then the body of the function. So I can comment this out. And now if I refresh, number 1, number 2 is giving me the right result. So the function would work exactly the same. It's just that the implementation have changed. And this is a much cleaner and casual approach. And in modern JavaScript, we use arrow function more and do not use the traditional function approach anymore. We can also manipulate CSS using our JavaScript. So let's create some new buttons. Let's call it paint me yellow. ID Y button. Make the calculate button bigger. So let's call it big button. Let's define a new function Y event, and in this function we will make the entire background yellow. So we also need to define body. So we will say body dot style dot background color properties. In JavaScript, the CSS properties are defined like this, and we will give in string yellow. Now I have to assign this event, and we will not assign the event like this. This is not a cleaner approach. The best way to define a function is within the external JavaScript file. So we have some ways to define the function. We have a simpler approach, and then we have the best approach. The simpler approach is like this. We have called the Y button Y. Y dot click. This is a property. Assign the Y event function. And by the way, this should be on click property. Let us now test this out. So it did paint the background yellow. Now the correct way to do this is you use the function add event listener, and inside this function you define that this is a click event and you are passing the Y event to be triggered upon this click. This is the right way of we can directly assign big button add event listener click and assign the function directly like this. But the above one is the best approach. So we can say that make the calculate button style dot height equals to 100 pixel and the width also 100 pixels. Let's go with 200. So this button paint the background yellow, and this make the calculate button bigger. So we can manipulate styles like this. We can also do stuff like this. New class, and we have font and height 200 pixels. When pressing this button, the calculate button class list will add another class which is new class. So we can add or remove classes using this. Before refreshing, let's also see that the style.css is defined within the index. It is not. So we have to take the link and define the CSS in the head. Now let us, so the CSS was actually applied. Let's comment this out using Control KC, Control KC, refresh, and now let's try to. So you can see that clicking this button turn on the class. So you can see that by going to inspect, the calculate does not have any class. When I press this button, make the calculate bigger, you can see that the calculate button is now bigger and have the new class. That's why its text is bold. So we can add the class or even remove the class or replace them. So we have functions to manipulate the CSS or the HTML attributes as well. So we can manipulate, let's say we have a tag. So basically it does nothing because nothing is inside the href. We can say that we can create another button, or let's just go with the big button. Change a tag. We can access a tag here and change the href property using set attribute, the name of the attribute which is href, and then the value to https google.com. And let's also put a tag dot inner html to go to Google and manipulates its style to dot text decoration to none. So we are manipulating the HTML attribute, manipulating the inner HTML, then we are manipulating the CSS. So we are doing all of these in a single tag. This does nothing. If I press this, so this is not working because I have defined the tag after my script. So the script should be the last thing that you define inside a body. Now let's try again. This does nothing. I press change a tag. Now you can see that the style, the inner text, and the functionality of the a tag is changed. So this is what a JavaScript can do. It can hold your logic and it can manipulate your HTML and CSS file as well. So this is all for the video. Thanks for watching and do subscribe to the channel. See you next time.